Hi, this is Koya Branch. In this video, we shall study types of animal breeding, methods of animal breeding, and cross-breeding systems. Animal breeding is the process of selective mating of animals with desirable genetic traits to maintain or enhance these traits in future generations. Or, on the other hand, it is the process by which animals are developed by transferring inherited qualities from parents to the offsprings. Types of animal breeding. There are four types of animal breeding. These are inbreeding, line breeding, crossbreeding, and outbreeding. Inbreeding is the mating of more closely related animals in a population from which they come from. Example, mating of the father and daughter, or son to the mother, or brother to the sister. Line breeding. It refers to mating of the same breed of animals which are not closely related, as in the case of inbreeding. Example, mating of cousins. Crossbreeding is the mating of animals from different breeds with desirable characters, which will lead to production of hybrid with hybrid vigor, otherwise known as heterosis. Example, the crossing between Muturu breed of cattle, which is resistance to trypanosomiasis, and the white Fulani breeds, which is susceptible to the disease, to produce a hybrid which combines the good characteristics of the two breeds. Outbreeding. It is the mating of the same breed of animals which are not related, or mating of unrelated animals within the same breed. Outbreeding is just the opposite of inbreeding. It produces hybrid vigor and productivity, just like crossbreeding. Methods of animal breeding. Methods of animal breeding include inbreeding method and outbreeding method. Inbreeding method refers to breeding of animals which are related to each other. And then, on the other hand, the outbreeding method is also breeding of animals which are not related to each other. Within the inbreeding method or breeding of related animals, there are A, close breeding, that is, mating or breeding of very close related animals and can be traced back to more than one common ancestor. And then B, we have back crossing. That is, offspring is mated, or the babies is mated back to one of its parents. And then we also have C, line breeding, which implies mating animals that are more distantly related, which can be traced back to one common ancestor. Within the outbreeding method or breeding of unrelated animals, we have A, crossbreeding, which implies mating or breeding of two or more animals of different breeds. Here, superior traits that can result in the crossbreed progeny from one crossbreeding are called hybrid vigor or heterosis, as mentioned earlier. And then B, the second one is upgrading. Upgrading within the outbreeding implies breeding of different breeds of animals that involves one superior and one inferior breed. This is done in order to improve the performance of the offspring. Example, breeding of the exotic Angus cattle with indigenous white Fulani cattle. Systems of crossbreeding. As mentioned earlier on, that crossbreeding is part of the outbreeding method, which implies breeding of animals which are not related. There are 4 systems of crossbreeding. We have 2-way cross, 3-way cross, 4-way cross, and rotational cross. Let's take a closer look at detailed example of these crossbreeding systems. The 2-way system of crossbreeding refers to mating of or crossing of 2 different pure breeds of animal, male and female, with the resulting progeny or baby carrying 50% gene of the male and then 50% gene of the female. Example, if you should use 100% pure breed Gudari bull to cross 100% Yakanaji cow, the resulting offspring or baby will carry the bloodline of 50% Gudali and 50% Yakanaji of the white Fulani breed. 3-way crossing. 3-way crossing refers to the process of crossing among 3 different 100% pure breed of animals. Example, let's consider the British Shorthorn, the Aberdeen Angus, and the Hereford breeds of cattle. 3-way cross is done by the farmer either deciding to choose among first 2 to cross. So in this example, if we should use 100% Shorthorn and 100% Aberdeen Angus to cross, we'll create a progeny which will carry a bloodline of 50% Shorthorn and 50% Angus. Finally, if we should use a bull of the 3rd breed Hereford to cross the progeny of the Shorthorn and the Angus, it will result in the creation of a progeny or an offspring which will carry 25% bloodline of the Shorthorn, 25% Angus, and then 50% Hereford. The 4-way cross. The 4-way cross is done by crossing among 4 different species or breeds of animals. This is done by first crossing 2 pairs to create a first progeny, and then crossing the second 2 pairs also to create a second progeny. After that, you then cross the 2 progenies to create the final progeny. Example, let's consider pure breed Brahman, pure breed Shorthorn, pure breed Angus, and then pure breed Hereford. If we should use the Brahman to cross the Shorthorn, it will create a progeny of 50% Brahman and 50% Shorthorn. Then, if we choose to cross the Angus with the Hereford, that will also create 50% Angus and 50% Hereford. If we should cross these 2 progenies together, it will create a progeny which shall be 25 Brahman, 25% Shorthorn, 25% Angus, and 25% Hereford bloodlines. Rotational cross. Rotational cross is done by alternating the cross or rotating the cross among 2 different breeds. For example, let's consider the Brahman breed and the Shorthorn breed. If we should decide to cross the Brahman with the Shoton. The resulting progeny will be 50% bloodline of Brahman and 50% Shoton. If we should use the Brahman again, we rotate the Brahman again to cross the progeny, which is 50% Brahman, 50% Shoton. The resulting progeny will carry 25% Shoton bloodline and 75% Brahman bloodline. As I've mentioned earlier on, in the outbreeding method is also upgrading. Upgrading is done by choosing one superior genetic and one inferior genetic, and then crossing them to create a genetic with hybrid vigor. Example, if we should use a Boer goat, which is a hybrid or exotic breed, to cross a local goat, which is the West African dwarf or Saharan long-legged or the Philippine native, any of the native goats, the resulting progeny will be that of 50% bloodline of Boer and 50% bloodline of the indigenous goat. Let's take a look at some of the examples of the exotic stabilized breeds. The Brangus is a two-way cross between the American Brahman and the Aberdeen Angus, which has developed over time and has become stabilized. The Bradford. Bradford is an American breed. It's also a two-way cross between the Brahman and the Hereford breed. The Beefmaster breed. The Beefmaster is also a three-way cross between the Brahman, Hereford, and the Shoton. It carries the bloodline of 50% Brahman, 25% Hereford, and 25% Shoton, which has become a stabilized breed. The pure American Brahman is a four-way cross between the Indian Gujarat, the Nellore, Gir, and Krishna Valley of Philippines. The Sender Gertrudis is also a two-way cross between the Brahman and the Shoton cattle, which has now become a stabilized breed. The Beaumont Red, which is also a stabilized Australian breed, is a three-way cross between the South African Afrikaner cattle, Hereford, and then Shoton. The Sinepol breed. The Sinepol is an upgrade between the Red Poll cattle of England and the Ndama cattle of Africa. These two breeds of inferior and superior genetic has been combined to create a hybrid vigor. The Sinepol was created in the Caribbean island of St. Croix. And then the Ndama was also brought from West Africa, Senegal. This is the conclusion of my video, and I hope by the end of this video, you'll be able to understand types of animal breeding, methods of breeding, and then systems of cross breeding. Thanks for viewing, and bye-bye.